This conference will now be recorded.
Well, good morning, everyone. Let's call the meeting to order. We'll start with confirmation of the agenda. May I have a mover and a seconder, please? John and Don. Thank you. Be it resolved that the board confirm the agenda as presented. Declaration of pecuniary interest. Bearing on now, you can declare at any time during the course of the meeting. Delegations and presentations. We have one here, delegation by Ken Furlong. Holly, what was it you wanted to do here?
Yeah, thank you. So I just forgot to add the vote. So the vote will be it resolved that the board received the delegation from resident Ken Furlong for information. So just a mover and seconder to put it on the floor.
Okay. So
I'll move it.
Who's going to second that? The mayor's going to second that. Ken, the floor is yours. Would you like to give a report on your concerns?
Yes, Jim. I want to say thank you. I'm not familiar with the people that are hearing this at this time. I have a written thing here. I would be gladly to drop it off or whatever for Holly to have as a record or whatever. That's quite. I'm quite willing to do that just because of communications and misunderstandings and whatnot. My concern, Jim, is I've written down here, and I am addressing it to the board. I am before you this morning to speak about the policing and enforcement of such issues in the hamlet of Swinton Park and immediate area. The path here has been of 2+ years of frustration, being told issues are of other people and authority, responsibility, or lack thereof, a case of being put pillar to post, so to speak. On awareness and informative discussion with CEO David Milner, Southgate Township, I was told to inform Mr. Frew of any further concerns in regards to Swinton Park. Jim, we had that conversation a few weeks ago. I have, and when in further discussion with Mr. Milner and staff, told to again go to this board. I filled the request in presence of 2 staff bylaw persons a little over a week ago. In the first instance, when informing Mr. Milner of my action of talking to Mr. Frew, he said, "I wish you had not." Thank you for this opportunity to bring these issues forward. Examples of great concern are drug overdoses, arson and attempted murder charges have been laid in the past, break, enter, and theft and destruction. There's noise there. I don't know if that's for me, is it? Break, enter, theft, and destruction of property. Costs of police officers on these instances over and above the contract police costs, I understand, to the township of which all residents are taxpayers. Costs of dollars and personnel on repeated paramedic assistance. Parties arrested back home without shame, remorse, or altered behavior. Trespassing under false pretense, such as being lost, needing gas, or are needing landscape work done. Most upsetting and intolerable observations are the occurrences of stoned, unresponsive, naked persons on the lawn or on the road. As late as last week, early before sunrise, a resident phoned his spouse while going to work, phoned to tell her, quote, "The garbage bag on the road was in fact a person. Don't run over it." Other observances include thievery with articles such as mobile house trailers, utility trailers, farm equipment recovered by citizens affected. Intimidation of women to the extent of being called parts of the female anatomy and wolf whistled at. Children avoiding the bike rides and play site at the community center in Swinton because of unsavory dress and actions of these above noted individuals. Threatening and dramatic witness of police operations, paramedic recovery of addicts, arrests, all with multiple vehicles with flashing lights. High speed and loud entrance and exit of motorbikes and pickup trucks all hours of the day and night in the village. There was an incident of a catapultic motorbike over a page wire fence after the operator lost control and hit a culvert. He was observed naked, other than undershorts, wandering aimlessly in a pasture early one morning after feeding the mosquitoes for some time the previous night. This operator was observed, reported to police, and arrested. Police secured the site for most of one day until destroyed, slashed, stolen motorbike removed from the field. This operator was observed here in the village this immediate past weekend on another Harley Davidson type large motorbike. Loud, fast, and again, the driver was without a helmet. Along with a crotch rocket motorcycle, I assume you all are familiar with that term, crotch rocket, they were making brief visits to property in the village. A good number of unplated and plated not belonging to vehicle attached have been noted and charges laid. One vehicle, a car with utility trailer attached, switched plates, baseball bat on the front seat, found trespassing, was towed and impounded only by insistence of property owner and myself. The above observations and citizen actions are being taken by individuals across our community. The culprits have been identified and are known by us in multiple illegal behaviors. I am asking of you and the board, on behalf of these affected citizens, traumatized, out-of-pocket costs for repairs, replacement, deductible insurance premiums, and for worrying of when will this strike again. I am asking, when can we expect from you an honorable, trusting, crime-free community void of these and others like them to be disciplined and restitution being paid back to the community? Respectfully, Ken Furlong. I'd gladly entertain any questions, clarifications, or certainly mostly is dialogue. Let's get past this situation. Thank you, Jim.
Well, thanks for the report, Ken. It's a little different from what I have here on my agenda. But anyway, you got that off your chest, and that's the main thing. And I'm sure that the OPP officers who are here have listened to your complaint and will take the necessary action as required. One thing to remember, Ken, we can request things of the OPP, but we cannot tell them how to go about getting it resolved. So thank you for your time, and hope things get better for you.
Well, I'm hoping so too, Jim. And like I say, I'll take this to the office and present it to Holly. And it's handwritten at the moment. Would you prefer it being typed?
That's a question for Holly.
As long as it's legible, I can just take a copy and include it with the minutes, if that's fine with you, Ken.
Well, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I just and if it's not, yeah, Sue can type it. I'm a one key at a time person on a keyboard. But anyway, now, yeah, this certainly I'm not in the broad presentation public and all that kind of stuff. I'm here to work with the people, eh? It's most discerning when you see your neighbors under this kind of stress, and particularly women and children, and this ongoing thing. I know it's rampant across the community in the broader respects, and certainly province and whatnot. But here's a situation which is most disturbing when you have a confined hamlet of some dozen houses, give or take, in a rural area. And so anyway, I'm pursuing this, and we would certainly respect your cooperation. And again, I feel free to contact me. You got my business card and whatnot. So, alrighty. Thank you very much. Okay, Holly, I'll put this in a sealed envelope and present it at the office.
That's perfect. Thank you, Ken.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Be it resolved that we'll receive Mr. Furlong's report for information. We have a move and a second, didn't we, Kit? Good.
That's correct. Yeah, we had Member Dobreen move and Mayor Woodbury second.
Well, that was a little longer than the report that I had here, so it's just as well he got it off his chest. Adoption of the minutes. Be it resolved the board approve the minutes of July 19, 2022. Move on the seconder, please. Don?
I'll second.
And Alan, thank you. Business arising. Any business arising from that meeting? Hearing none. Item number 8, Detachment Commander's Report. I went through the report.
Good morning, everybody.
Very good.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, Chair Free,
Go
we
ahead.
just need a mover and seconder to put that on the floor.
Don? John, thank you.
All set, Holly?
All set.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. With your permission, I can address a couple of the points, particularly administrative ones that Mr. Furlong brought forward, if you wish.
Please do.
So of interest, I just wanted to bring to the board's attention that there have been a series of arrests in that area. There has been, as Mr. Furlong actually mentioned, there's been a fairly significant police presence there in our efforts to try and make the community safe. When it comes to the release of individuals, obviously there are legislative processes involved in that, and the courts have a part in the release of individuals as well. So often that is beyond our control. We do put information forward to try and encourage people to be held in custody if necessary, but again, it's not a process that we have control over. Generally, in these types of situations, the best approach is a collaborative one. We've always had success with collaboration, and that's bringing all of the partners together. I heard from Mr. Furlong that there are addiction issues and opioid issues, and those are generally best served by those with expertise in those fields and collaborating with the police in helping those individuals with those medical issues. And there's something in the report that might address that a little bit as well. So, and most importantly, I just wanted to be clear that, as most of you know, the OPP billing process does not account for major incidents, in that if there is a major incident, it does not cost the municipality anymore. There is a bill, it's given to the municipality, they can budget based on that bill, and they know what the accounting processes are. So there's no greater fee for a major type of occurrence or a police presence. A call for service is a call for service, and it's billed that way. So I just wanted to be clear that there's no extra cost for police presence. The only extra cost may be if there's a significant increase in calls for service, but that is negligible and balanced over 4 years, as everybody on this board knows. So I just wanted to clarify those points. I didn't want the people of Southgate thinking that there was going to be a massive increase of any sort. And I appreciate the time to address that. Interestingly, I'm going to start off with calls for service, as we just coincidentally spoke about billing, and I don't see a significant statistical increase or decrease over the last this reporting period in comparison to other reporting periods. It's pretty neutral. There hasn't been a significant increase. As we move over to violent crime, I noticed that when we look at sexual assaults, the number of sexual assaults is fairly neutral, and the assaults are down significantly, which is a good news story. We're happy to see that. Property crime, in terms of auto theft, is neutral. Theft is neutral. There's no statistical anomalies or significant increases. I do notice that break-and enters are starting to trend up slightly, but I'm not alarmed by the increase at this point. We'll monitor it throughout the year. Quite often there's an increase in the summertime in calls for service and incidents, and as the year progresses, they decrease and level out. So we'll monitor and make sure that that increase isn't consistent, and if we do notice an increase, we'll conduct some analysis and do what we can to address it. Drug investigations, and it's again related to perhaps what Mr. Furlong was speaking to. You'll notice a decrease in our drug investigations, and that is on the heels of things like the Good Samaritan Act. And as a police service, we no longer focus on the end user. Our investigations focus on those who supply opioids and who supply fentanyl into our communities and introduce the danger that addicts face through consuming those products. So we focus on those that are manufacturing and distributing those. That's why you'll see a consistent decrease in the number of drug investigations. The reason for that is the investigations we're conducting are more complex and at a higher level. So there's fewer of them, but they're certainly more complex, with the desire to, forgive the expression, but sort of cut off the head of the snake. So we're going to where the distribution and the manufacturing of the drugs occurs. And we have an example of that later on in the report. When I look at domestic disputes, they're relatively neutral. Missing persons are down significantly, and we're always happy to see that, because generally, not always, but generally, missing persons tend to be our more vulnerable, either younger, older, or those with challenges. So it's nice to see that number down significantly. Our crime unit continues to be busy as they conduct major investigations, not only in the County of Grey, but throughout the area and throughout the province. Our street crime unit has been very busy and done some very impressive work. Although this seizure wasn't in our area, but in a county close to us, they seized 403 grams of blue fentanyl and 208 grams of yellow fentanyl and 628 grams of methamphetamine in a warrant that they executed. Those are drugs that are destined for your community, my community, our communities. So to take those drugs off the street, it has a significant impact and a significant contribution to public safety. So those are some excellent results. As you well know, people don't recognize borders when they're engaging in activities such as this. So I can say with confidence that those drugs were destined for some portions of your community. So it's very nice to see the hard work being done there. And then specifically to Southgate, there was a warrant executed, and there was 2 Kawasaki motorcycles, 2 ATVs, and a trailer recovered in that investigation as well. So they continue to be busy, work hard, and do the best to provide public safety. I did want to point out, we have noticed, not specific to Southgate, but across the Grey Bruce area, there has been an increase in fatal motor vehicle collisions. And frankly, it's not just the Grey Bruce area, we're seeing it across the province. So we are going to be conducting some analysis. We're engaging our TMU, engaging our frontline members to have more of a focus on traffic safety. Fatal collisions not only impact those involved, but the families. They impact our communities, they impact our health system, and they impact our officers here that have to investigate them. So we're going to take some significant action to address some of the public safety as it relates to traffic enforcement, and specifically the big 4 that we look at: the drugs and alcohol, occupant restraint, speed, and distracted driving. We focus on those things because those are the greatest contributors to serious collisions. As we move on into our the traffic portion of it, you'll see that our impaireds are down significantly in Southgate, and part of our strategy to combat the collisions that we're experiencing is a significant contribution to ride programs. So you can expect to see a lot more ride programs in your area. They're an effective tool for not only identifying impaired drivers by drug or alcohol, but they're also an effective deterrent as well. And you can expect to see myself and the staff sergeants out as well, participating in those rides and engaging with our public. The nice part about a ride program is it's not only looking for impaired drivers, it not only gives a sense of public safety, but it really gives us an opportunity to engage with those folks in the public that we don't necessarily always engage in, and have a conversation and develop those relationships and gather information. So it's an important tool for many, many reasons. Wanted to move on to suspect apprehension pursuits. There's obviously an increase there. Pursuits are not something that we engage in lightly. They have a significant public risk element to them. And I just wanted to point out to the board and anybody who may be listening that just because we don't stop somebody at the time, we are gathering evidence through the whole process. And we may not identify you today, but there's a good chance we'll identify you tomorrow or the day after, and we don't really give up. So we look to gather evidence to make sure that accountabilities are in place. And then I wanted to move on to sort of our media portion. Nick Wilson has been extremely busy. He's quite a dedicated officer when it comes to community service and media. He's been coordinating training for fraud prevention for municipal employees, and we're starting to look again at education for the elderly who are quite often victimized by international fraud and unscrupulous people. So we look to do that in the coming days. You will see in your report a big picture of the Stanley Cup. And although it didn't come to Southgate, I'm sure there were Southgate residents that were at the Stanley Cup celebration in Sauble Beach. And as a police officer, those are the events that, well, not only am I a hockey fan, I was pretty excited to see the cup myself, but it was such a nice event that we can get out and just have such positivity and positive interaction with our communities. All too often it's because somebody's having a difficulty that we engage with our public, and these are wonderful events to just get out, have a conversation, and be with our public as they celebrate milestones. So it was exciting to see the cup. It was exciting to be part of it. It was a great day. And then lastly, I wanted to finish on something that is, and I apologize that Staff Sergeant Anderson couldn't make it today, but this success is in significant part to her efforts and her hard work. We recently signed the MOU for the Mobile Crisis Response Team. That is finalized. Interviews have taken place. Job offers have gone out. And you will see an embedded clinician program within the OPP. And by that, I mean a mental health professional partners with a police officer in response to crisis calls where mental health or addiction can be a factor. And I know we talked about, I talked about introducing something that could support Mr. Furlong in some of what he's experiencing. This is one of those collaborative programs that we see great success with. So for example, if there is a person in crisis and they call the police, the police will be accompanied by a mental health professional. That mental health professional can assist that person with de-escalation if they're escalated. They can provide ongoing care past that day. So we're putting the right services in the right place at the right time. And what are really patients with a health issue are getting served by the health system. And what we see as a peripheral benefit to it in other programs I've been involved with is up to an 80% reduction in hospital room visits or emergency room visits, and the ability to reduce that volume in an emergency room, and particularly in today's health system, is just such a benefit to them. Those are resources that can be dedicated to other emergencies or other people in need. We see fewer recidivist actions with our citizens that are challenged by mental health, in that they have the services they need now, so the calls are fewer, which means most importantly that patient is getting the help that they need. And that is the greatest benefit of the program. But that also, those fewer calls free up our officers for other things as well. So there's great benefit to the program. It's really a win-win for all involved: the patient, the police, the community, the health system. And again, I just wanted to publicly recognize Staff Anderson, and I know Staff Wilcox was part of that process as well, in working diligently to get this program off the ground to support our community. So it's you may hear how excited I am about it. I really am excited because I've experienced it in other areas, and it's just such a benefit. And just as an aside, policing is a difficult job, and there's challenges for our officers. We also see the unintended benefit of our officers having the supports of mental health clinicians as well, which maintains a healthy workforce for us here in Grey County and across the province. So that is the entirety of my report. I appreciate your time this morning, and I welcome any questions you may have. Thank you.
Any questions for the inspector? Any comments? These are rather quiet. I got one here, municipal bylaw. We have a pretty good complement of individuals in the municipal bylaw section. And I see here there's 9 calls. The unfortunate thing about our municipal bylaw is that we don't have municipal bylaw tickets. So when our people go out, they're sort of handcuffed. I've been on the tail of the CAO for so many years on this matter. And if we don't have a ticket book to go out with the bylaw enforcement officers, it makes it rather difficult to get the job done. So as long as they are going to be without these tickets, it's nice to know that the OPP are taking action on this matter. Anyone else got anything for the inspector? This last item here.
Councillor Fruit. Jim?
Yeah?
Don Lewis here. Question for the commander, detachment commander. So will there be a response to Mr. Furlong, or what follows up on that we will see some discussion of that next month or in 2 months or whatever? Or I'm just unclear as to process here.
We have ongoing interaction with Mr. Furlong. It's what he brought to the board today is not it's not unknown to us here at the OPP. So we continue to work with Mr. Furlong. I'm struck by having had similar occurrences in other areas in my experience as a detachment commander. Really, the way to solve this is collaboration with Mr. Furlong, with the OPP, and perhaps engaging some of our partners in public health, EMS, and those areas. And that will lead to some success. We in the OPP have to, well, we're bound by legislation, and we're bound by policy, we're bound by procedure, and we're bound by case law, and we have to do things in accordance with all of those things. And I think we just need to have continuing conversations with Mr. Furlong so he understands what our capacity is to address them, and then help him maybe engage. He seems very engaged, and put him in contact with others that can help support as well. So that'll be an ongoing dialogue with him for certain. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, John?
Yeah, thanks, Jim and Paul. And I think just to add to what you were saying, Paul, I think we've got to actually look at what the numbers are as well, because I know in the past, some of the issues have been that although a lot of these things that Ken talked about, he knew about, and some of the residents knew about, a lot weren't being reported. And so it's a matter of, we'll get our bylaw check in and see how many have been reported. We may have to do some more education and push, although we've been trying that for the last couple of years to get more people to report things. And I'll talk to Kevin McNabb from Ambulance Services to see you know, kind of the volume of call they're getting, and see if it's really, these people know the rules kind of better than all of our different agencies at times. They know the gaps in them, and it's a matter of getting all of us together and seeing about filling the gaps. And there has been the cooperation. The problem is getting accurate information as well. Like I know there was quite a few things last year that were reported that didn't happen in the township. Actually, some of them didn't even happen in the county. So it's a matter of sorting through and finding out what we can actually act on and who can act on it, and keeping those communications up. So I think that's where a big step of where we'll continue to go, but that's already been started. So we'll just kind of sort through that a bit more and see what we can do. Hope that helps.
And your point is very well taken and well put. Quite often, people don't call us, and if they don't call, we don't know. So I would encourage people, if they have an issue, to certainly call us, and that's gonna lead to some success as well. And your point on collaboration is welcome, and it's very true. And quite often, and I'm not saying this specifically to Mr. Furlong, but just as my experience as a police officer, there's information that comes from a number of sources. Some of it can be social media. And when we start to parse that out and delve down into it, the not intentionally, but the accuracy of that information can become skewed as it gets passed along in the telephone game, as it were. I wanted to I just wondered if Staff Wilcox has any thoughts on this, because he has a little more experience in the area than I.
Yeah, thanks, Inspector. Mr. Furlong, I've had personal conversations with him about a lot of these issues since I arrived in Grey Bruce in October of last year. We have been active in the community. There's been lots of good police work that's happened there that the inspector alluded to, with people coming into custody, and even through some of the comments that Mr. Furlong made. You know, he talked about a motorcycle operator that police apprehended and then complained about the same individual. And I think this goes back to you know, the community-based approach, because the police are a cog in that wheel, and there are other cogs that we need to keep moving along as well. So the point's well taken, and we will continue to work on it.
Excellent. Very good. Okay. Glasses on again. Be it resolved that the detachment commander's report be received for information. We have a correspondence here from the Halidaty Labour Conference. That's of no interest to anyone on Section 10. This is strictly municipal policing that gets involved in this particular meeting that they're going to have in the fall. So we can disregard that.
Chair Frew,
Yeah.
we just need a mover and seconder to receive it for information, but nothing further, like no further action needs to be taken.
Didn't we have a move on a seconder
Not for that one.
for the detachment commander's report? Or you mean for the Labour Conference?
Yeah, correspondence.
Well, like I say, it's a Section 31 item. It has got nothing to do with the Section 10, nothing to do with our board at all. I don't know why they would send it to Section 10 boards.
Yeah, so we're just receiving it for information. No further action has to be taken
Okay,
with it.
moving a seconder then. John, and a seconder? Don, thank you. I seem to have lost a page in this report here. I'll be darned. I can't find it down.
So the
Anyway,
next
there was-
section,
Pardon?
sorry, the next section is just the verbal report on the Zone 5 meeting.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for on this and I can't find it. The Zone 5 report was a a lecture from Lisa McDonald on her services with the OPP. That took up most of that meeting. Dwayne Sprague had absolutely nothing to report on the regulations for the new Police Service Act. So it was the first in-person meeting in 2 years, and it didn't go too well at all. There was a total lack of information. So really nothing to report on that. Here we go. Members' privilege and good news and celebrations. Anyone got anything for that?
To Jim,
More
Don
silence.
here.
Yes, Don.
So will this be our last meeting or when's election with this board? Where are we at?
Actually, the chair stays as chair until the third meeting, third Tuesday in the new year, when a new chair would be selected. So the new
Okay, so
council
we have,
coming in has got nothing to do with the board.
Okay,
So
so
there will be-
we're still in
Yeah,
till November.
till November. And then at that time, there'll be a request for individuals to select appointments. They didn't do it last term of council, and they may not do it this term of council. There are a few things that get forgotten. But anyway, we can sort that out as members of the board.
So anyhow, we plan on another meeting coming up in September, October, November.
In November, yeah.
Yeah.
And that'll
Okay.
be the last meeting for this this term.
Very good, thank you.
And I noticed that it's not listed in here as confirmation of the next meeting to be determined. Sooner we get that in, the better. Ollie. So that's
Sorry,
only
Councillor, for
thing-
just 1 second. Lindsay, I think, is trying to talk, but she might be having technical issues.
is Lindsay here? Yeah, there she is. Lindsay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now.
Sorry, my computer was weird. Councillor Chair Frew, we only scheduled 5 meetings of the board this year. And then following the election, we would be advertising, well, in this board, it's a little bit different. There would be the public appointments and then the council appointments, which we do early December. And then the first meeting would be in January. So we don't have another scheduled meeting this year with this board.
Who arranged that schedule?
It was approved at the beginning of this year.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to bring. That's what I was trying to bring up, Jim. I thought we were done.
Now we can have another meeting in November. That's fine. If the board wants, I guess it would be November 15th if we followed the normal schedule of the third Tuesday. That is the last day, the last day of the term of the current council. And the thing is, Mayor Woodbury and Don Lewis are appointed by this council. So then we would not have quorum. So I don't advise having another meeting. What we'll do is follow the normal process in appointing at the first meeting of council. Typically we do at the first meeting in December. And then our next meeting would be January, is what we've done in the past.
Okay, I'll stand corrected then. So this is the last meeting for this term. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct. Mayor Woodbury has something.
Okay. John?
Just to add to that, Jim, although we may not have a meeting, until the council term is done, we are still the Police Services Board. So if something does happen that the meeting is needed, you could call a meeting and things
Yeah.
like that as that. But not having a scheduled one doesn't mean that we can't still do something if something comes up.
Yeah, well, that would be the call of the chair. But having talked with the secretary of the OAPSB, their opinion that November would be the last meeting. So a little bit of a conflict there, but we'll go with what Lindsay has to say. That being the case, I would like to thank everyone for the attention they've been paying to the matters at hand, and enjoy the rest of the year. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Adjourned at 9:40. Okay, Holly? Good, thank you.
That's great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.